What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back once again with another episode of our Beyond Omega Level series, where we break down the most powerful characters in comics. And today, we're focusing on Rune King Thor, who is arguably the strongest version of Thor that we've ever seen in comics, right up there with King Thor, or Herald of Galactus Thor, that Donny Cates recently introduced. Of course, Thor's been around for decades, first appearing in Journey into Mystery number 83 by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Larry Lieber in 1962. But this version of Thor comes from a story arc that serves as a prologue to the Avengers Disassembled storyline and ran from issue 80 to 85 in the Mighty Thor, written by Michael Oeming in 2004. And you guys will actually find a link to that video down in the description, just to set the stage of what's going on with Thor at this time. His father Odin had basically been killed during Dan Jurgen's run on Thor by the fire demon Surtur, making Thor the Lord of Asgard, and he was a terrible king. The reason why I say this is Thor does a lot of questionable stuff, like trying to take over Earth, fighting with and imprisoning the Avengers, and marrying Amora the Enchantress. He just basically lost his mind. Thor and Amora end up having a son named Magni who grows up and doesn't approve of how his father has run things, so Thor finally realizes that he's made a mess of everything and decides to undo all his mistakes using time travel. Now, after all this is undone, Thor faces a new threat as Loki brings Surtur back from the dead in an attempt to bring about Ragnarok, the final battle of the Asgardians and the destruction of Asgard. Now, Surtur ends up using the forge where Mjolnir was created to create more hammers made from the same Uru metal that Mjolnir's made of. Now, Loki also assembles a team of some of Thor's greatest rivals, including Ulik the Troll, Herm the Giant, and Loki's own son, Fenris Wolf. Now, while Thor is in Nidavellir, the realm of the dwarves, to pay respects after the deaths of two of the realm's finest blacksmiths, along with Sif, Amora Balder, and the Warriors 3, Loki's forces basically launch their attack using the hammers that Surtur had made. Now, during this melee, Mjolnir is broken as it makes contact with Ulik and Fenris' hammers simultaneously. Thor's then nearly killed by Loki, who blasts him into the waters inhabited by the Midgard serpent, but Thor manages to escape to Midgard and then enlists the help of Iron Man and Captain America. Now, Thor returns to find Asgard completely in shambles, and he and his allies are quickly ambushed by Loki's forces. This time, however, Thor's able to gain the victory with the help of Captain America and Iron Man, as Ulik and Herm the Giant are killed and Loki's forced to retreat with the rest of his forces. Now, Thor then finds out that both his mother Frigga and his brother Balder have both been killed, and after sending Iron Man and Captain America back to Earth, he journeys to Alfheim, the realm of the Light Elves, and there he finds Volstagg, but learns the other two members of the Warrior 3 have also been killed. Now later, Beta Ray Bill shows up to help Thor and kills Fenris Wolf, prompting Loki to once again retreat, but try as he might, Thor can never seem to get the better of Loki, so he basically leaves Bill to rule Asgard in his stead, and then tries to figure out what he needs to do. And so Thor's visited by a ghostly young kid that has Odin's two ravens with him, and it turns out this boy is actually the personification of the Odin Force, which is exactly what it sounds like, the force that gave Odin his powers. Now, this kid tells Thor that he needs to gain wisdom if he's ever going to really live up to his potential, and that in order to gain this wisdom, he needs to do what Odin did in his quest to gain this wisdom. And so Thor goes to the Well of Mimir, where Odin gouged out one of his eyes in an attempt to gain wisdom. But this is not enough, and the boy tells Thor that he needs to go beyond the sacrifice Odin made. So Thor gouges out both of his eyes, as well as drinking from the well, which enables him to see into the past and discover that Ragnarok is actually a cycle of destruction and rebirth of Asgard that repeats itself throughout eternity. And so after that, he goes to the life tree Yggdrasil, where Odin had previously hung himself for 9 days until he was nearly dead. Once again, needing to outdo Odin's sacrifice, Thor hangs himself from the tree until he dies. But in the process, he gains knowledge of rune magic, which is not really explained in much detail, but what we do know is that it gives him knowledge of basically everything that will come to pass in the future. And so Thor finally succumbs to death and wakes up in hell. But before his soul's claimed by Hela, Odin's spirit ultimately rescues him. Now, the next time Thor wakes up, he finds himself in front of those who sit above in shadow, which is really a council of divine beings that are seemingly vastly more powerful than the gods of Asgard. And so you can think of them as gods to the gods. One of the funny things about this is that during the Last Days story arc, following or at least leading up to the events of Secret Wars, Loki talks about the ones who sit above in shadow and alludes to the fact that they might be beyonders. People like to take that and say, see, they're beyonders. Loki doesn't say they're beyonders. He says they might be. Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what they are. But what Thor figures out is that their power is derived by the endless cycle of Ragnarok, a cycle which Thor vows to break. And so when he leaves the presence of those who sit above in shadow, Thor's armed with both the Odin Force and rune magic, which results in him being ridiculously powerful. And so the first time he puts this on display is when he encounters one of his strongest foes, the Mangog. Now the Mangog is the last surviving member of a race that attempted to invade Asgard, but the invasion fails and Odin imprisoned Mangog beneath Asgard, where he stayed until he was freed by Ulik the Troll. And the Mangog has always proved to be one of the most challenging foes that Thor has come across. And every time Mangog is defeated, he later reappears. I mean, literally, the Mangog is like the only thing Odin is afraid of. In this instance, Rune King Thor does not struggle with Mangog at all, and like easily defeats this guy simply just by touching him. Like it actually like erases the Mangog from existence, right? So this guy, like Rune King Thor, he was a multiversal being. It was insane how powerful he was. But after defeating the Mangog, Thor sets its sights on Loki, and after easily destroying Loki's army of trolls, he gets his hands on Loki and then pulls his head off. Now Loki's head continues to speak after being separated from his body, and Thor basically carries it with him as he seeks out Surtur to repair Mjolnir. Now in exchange for repairing his hammer, Thor offers Surtur a free path to Asgard for one final battle. And so Thor then makes his way to the Tapestry of Fate, which basically contains the very threads that make up reality, with the intent to destroy it so the cycle of Ragnarok will be broken. Now those who sit above in shadow appear to Thor and implore him not to destroy reality, even going so far as to offer him a seat on their council. But Thor refuses their request and destroys the tapestry along with Yggdrasil and those who sit above in shadow with one swing of his hammer. Literally, Thor destroyed reality with one hit of his hammer. Now, once Ragnarok is over and Asgard and the Asgardians are all destroyed, Thor enters a state of hibernation similar to the Odin sleep before being brought back to the Marvel Universe around 2 years later. Now, unfortunately, this really is all we've seen out of Rune King Thor, as he's only been around for a little over one issue and hasn't been heard from again. But the fact that he displayed the ability to remove the Mangog from existence and destroy reality with one hit implies that he was at least able to teleport others across dimensional barriers and perhaps even warp reality itself, which would actually make sense, as he was described as having the ability to know the past, to see the future, and to control the present. And the fact that he was able to take out a council of beings that were more powerful than the gods themselves and just cause them to stop existing shows us that we're dealing with a ridiculously powerful individual, which is probably why we haven't seen Thor tap into rune magic and become Rune King Thor since this time, as it just makes him too powerful to tell a compelling story. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, right? I mean, this version of Thor was ridiculously OP. There is a part of me that kind of wants to see him come back, but in all the years that I've been reading Thor, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, in all the years that I've been reading Thor, right? Jason Aaron's run, I've read Walt Simonson's run, I've read Dan Jurgens' run, I've read all these different runs on Thor. I have never seen a version of his character as powerful as this. Like, what is it? Like Thor in the MCU, right? When he's got like Stormbreaker? No, man, he pales in comparison to this guy. But I love this version of Thor, right? We don't get to see him long, but I do love this version of Thor because he's just so ridiculously overpowered. But with that being said, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments section. I've been meaning to do this video for a long time. Nathaniel from Patreon, don't worry, I will do your video on Parasite Explained. I've been meaning to tell you that. We're gonna do that video. Don't worry, I'm not gonna leave you hanging. But thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.